The special prosecutor says its investigations have revealed an undisclosed real estate business and other businesses linked to the former minister, Cecilia Dapaah, who operated them using aliases. In the latest charge sheet filed at the High Court, seeking to affirm the seizure and freeze of assets of the former minister, the OSP further alleged Madam Dapaah was receiving payments from the accounts of her deceased brother. The Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Chayabwa, has given an indication that the prosecution will file a motion for the daily hearing of the case against former CEO of defunct Menzgold, Nana Appiah Mensah, following its commencement at the High Court. Naman pleaded not guilty to all 39 counts of charges against him when the case resumed after almost 5 years.
At the case management stage, we'll put up that application and request the court, subject to the court's convenience, to have this matter heard on daily basis. We want this matter to be heard so that those depositors can know their fate, so the accused person can also know his fate.
Vice President and flag bearer hopeful of the NPP, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, says he will not be dragged into a battle of insults as he seeks to lead the party into the 2024 general elections. He was speaking during his campaign tour to lead the party at Gwaso in the Ahafo region.
I don't want divisions in our party. If you are a member of the NPP, I'll work with you because after the November 4 elections, we'll have to work together to retain power. So all through my campaigns, I've not insulted anyone.
One of the accused at the center of a freedom demonstration held at the Abin in support of pro-Russia military group Wagner says he only got to know about the details after the arrest. According to Nanafen, he was hired by the group to provide sound equipment for the program.
If
I had known the motive for the program, I would not have rented the equipment to them. The elders would not have granted them permit to organize the program.
Temporary work has begun on the Dolly Bridge on the Boli-Sola-Wa Highway, which was damaged by flood waters on September 17. Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwesi Amoakwata, assured commuters and residents that a contractor will be scheduled to work on the stretch of road.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, fresh details we're getting from the Office of Special Prosecutor has made a strong comeback seeking orders of the seizure and freezing of property of embattled former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapaah. We have the chilling detail in there, very interesting to say the least, especially taking into consideration the fact that this is the second attempt by the OSP to freeze the bank accounts of Cecilia Dapaah and then also the money that was retrieved from her Abelemkpe residence, $590,000 and over 2 million Ghana cedis we're talking about here. Now the OSP's detail tells us copiously where these monies were found and how they were hidden in the Abelemkpe residence. My colleague Dennis Poberi-Wadam is the legal analyst here at Media Journal. Is joining me in studio. Dennis, great to have you. And now, what have we found in this statement coming through from the OSP's office?
Well, Alfred, like you mentioned, very revealing detail in here. Some have seen this to be an attempt on the part of the OSP to make right what the court did not deem as right on his first attempt to secure freezing, to confirm freezing orders and then the order of seizure in respect of some properties of Madame Cecilia Dapaah. Now, you recall that the OSP had gone to court after he had seized some amounts of money in the homes of Madame Cecilia Dapaah. And also thereupon made investigations and realized that there were some bank accounts that she had operated, for which reason the OSP wanted some orders of the court to confirm a freezing order on the bank accounts and an order of seizure on the monies that were retrieved from her homes. The money in question we are talking about is some $590,000 US. in a dollar denomination, and the other bit, which is in cedi denomination, is in excess of 2.8 million Ghana cedis. So the OSP essentially, by that particular application then, wanted to seize the money and continue to keep it. That's the money in dollar denomination and then in cedi denomination.
I see.
And also to freeze some 7 accounts, some of which were with the Prudential Bank and others with Societe Generale. The OSP contention was that he suspects that the money in those accounts were tainted and that the money that the OSP, upon a search, discovered from the homes of the former minister were also tainted.
I see.
Unfortunately for the OSP, the court said that the OSP had not been able to justify why he says that those monies were tainted, because there's a threshold that needs to be met. According to the court, that threshold hadn't been met.
Right.
So what we have before us now is the OSP, having complied with the orders of the court then to return the money and to unfreeze the accounts, now makes not a U-turn, but a comeback to say that I still insist that this money I'm talking about is indeed tainted and the account need to be frozen, and the money that I got from the former minister's home still needs to be kept.
And what are those strong reasons that he adduces for this next move?
Well, so the OSP states simply that the reasonable grounds that the cash sum seized from the residence of the respondents are suspected tainted property, that as suspected to be derived, obtained, or realized from the commission of corruption or corruption-related offenses, and that they are premised on the consideration that the cash sums are unexplained and not linked to any disclosed lawful sources of income of the respondents. Respondents here refer to the former minister and her husband.
I see.
And reinforced by the conduct of the respondents in their rendition of varying and sometimes conflicting accounts of ownership and sources of the large amounts of money reportedly stolen from her residence. The cash amount seized from the OSP, from her by the OSP, and the link between the large sums of money reportedly stolen from their residence and the cash amount seized by the authorized officers of the OSP.
So
now, this is the basis.
I see.
But you recall that the courts, in dismissing the first application of the OSP, did indicate that the OSP did not give enough detail to justify that the money was tainted. In this particular one, we see a lot of detail. And that is why the OSP begins by talking about some inconsistencies in the narrative or the responses from the respondents, and then some the basis for some transfers and even where some of the money was coming from and all of that.
Because he says that there are no financial records and traces of the origins of the money.
So that is also another ground the OSP is saying. That yes, no financial records and traces of the origins of the money reportedly stolen from the residence of the respondents and the money discovered by the OSP at the said residence. That further, there is no evidence of the amount of money having been derived from any legitimate business, profession, or vocation, and no evidence of said amounts having been lawfully declared and subjected to any statutory payments. He goes on to list a number of instances, and then we go into that. And that will be with respect of the money that the OSP discovered from the house. In this case, we're talking about an amount of money, $590,000 US, and then a little over 2.8 million Ghana cedis. Now, the OSP says that during the search, in the presence of the respondents, Cecilia Dapaah claimed that she did not have any knowledge of presence of money in her house.
That's the Belenque place.
Yes.
Okay.
And that upon the OSP search, when they found the money, then it heightened their suspicion that no, if she initially claimed that there was no money and they found money, then there must have been a reason she did not admit that there was money in the house.
True.
And that's on the 24th of July, when they took her caution statement, she indeed indicates, and this is a matter of public record now, that some $800,000 US, which is supposed to be part of the $1 million allegedly stolen, belonged to her deceased brother.
True.
One Nana Akwesi, a son the second. However, on the 28th of July, there was also some additional statement which was made voluntarily by the minister, the former minister. And in that statement, the former minister indicated that the amount of $590,000 US, which was found by the OSP, was a part of the 1 million, which was stolen by the 8 people who are now standing trial for theft.
I see. So let's put
now
on
that
the
raises
record
questions.
that the $590,000
yes,
and then also the over 2 million CDs
yes,
was found at their Belingpe residence
upon the search of the OSP.
Upon the search of the OSP. And where were these monies found?
Okay, so
in the OSP statement, how did they find this money
so let me find the exact place. It gives a very descriptive detail of how the money was kept. Okay, so it says that the cash monies were craftily concealed in wraps, polythene bags, cloth, 32 envelopes, and were buried and secreted in obscure places in the residence.
Polythene bags?
Yes, some with labels and descriptions. And that's how the OSP describes how the money was found in the...
That's the $590,000 we're talking about, and the over 2 million.
Yes.
They were found in polythene bags.
They were found in wraps, polythene bags, and clothes, and in envelopes.
In the house.
Later, the former minister would attempt an explanation as to how those monies were kept in those places, including claims that some of it were her certain allowances. But it is the case of the OSP that when they checked what is allowed, the threshold for the certain allowances of public officers of her kind, it is the suspicion of the OSP that it is not the money in there, in some of the envelopes, were far more than...
Cannot be certain allowances.
Exactly.
I see. How about the cosmetic business? The cosmetic business, how was that mentioned in this particular statement that we have a copy of?
Okay. So with respect to the cosmetic business, it had to do with this $2.8 million CDs we're talking about, the over 2.8 million Ghana CDs. Now, you know, she had mentioned that part of it is funeral donations.
True.
Part of it is for her. And that for her, she means that is for her certain allowances, and then some part of it from cosmetic businesses. She mentions the name of the cosmetic business, which she gives as Demarcare Enterprise. The OSP runs a check, and it came out that it was registered in the name of another person.
So this Demarcare is not owned or is owned by Cecilia Dapaah, but registered in the name of somebody else?
Well, that's what the OSP found. It does not just end there. They also found another business entity, which was Demarcare Enterprise. It had the postal address of the former minister. However, it was also vested in another person. Ownership was vested in another person, one Victoria Adiok.
So there's a difference between Demarcare Enterprise and
Yes.
Demarcare Cosmetics.
Yes.
They're two different businesses.
Now, also on that same matter, the former minister indicated to the OSP that some of the money found in her home was a sale of the Demarcare Cosmetic business in 2003. Now, the OSP was curious because the money they found, according to the OSP, was in the new Ghana cedi, which came to being in 2007.
Yes.
So, if the business was sold in 2003 and the money kept till date, the expectation of the OSP was that the money would have been in the old
currency.
It didn't end there. The OSP runs a check on this business only to find out that it was actually registered in 2018.
This Demarcare Cosmetics was registered in 2018 as against her account that it was registered in 2003 and she sold the business.
It was actually sold out in 2003.
I see. Wow.
So now, this is the basis that the OSP is saying that based on all these things, including a lot more, there's actually a lot in this document.
Indeed. To say
that talks about the money itself, and then, but there's a part that also speaks to the fact that the husband did not claim ownership of any part of the money.
She didn't claim ownership?
Yes, except to say that he also received some $200,000 from a niece who is in the United States of America.
I see.
But the OSP says that even with respect to that money, there were varying accounts as to how much was received and how it was received between the husband of the former minister and then the supposed niece who is in the United States of America.
Dennis, stay with me. This is an 8-page document which we're trying to break it down and summarize for you, our viewers, to follow every step of the way. Lawyer Martin Pibble is joining us on Zoom. In fact, he's been very critical of the OSP after the first attempt to freeze the account of Cecilia Dapaah failed. He said that the OSP made elementary errors and that he failed to disclose the details of the accounts that he sought to freeze. Well, that's been done now. We know the details of the account now that the OSP wants to freeze. He's joining us on the on Zoom. Lawyer Martin Pebble, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. So it appears that the OSP has taken your advice, now giving some details of these accounts plus other findings related to Cecilia Dapaah. It opens the way for a showdown, is it not?
I like the word showdown. Yeah. Is the anything now? Great. Yes. So this is a much stronger application that looks set to give this Madame Dapaah a real showdown. Yes. So it's good, and we must really laud the OSP for the resilience. Yes, this is what we expected. I mean, and he didn't. Mr. Cecilia Dapaah didn't waste time in re-season the currency, and that's the application for currency. So that's great. Yes.
Looking at the full details of this document from the OSP, Cecilia Dapaah is reported to have not even declared. There's a real estate business that she owns, and she didn't declare that one as well, which we will get into shortly. The cash found in her house was craftily concealed in polythene bags and clothes and envelopes buried in obscure places. The OSP searched and found them, and other things that is in this report. What does all of this tell you from what you said, Martin Bebu?
It points in the direction of corruption and corruption-related offenses. Yes, because as it were, you'd see that these monies are not supported by Madame Dapaah's income. That's a key thing. How did she come by that money? What business did she do to earn that income? You see, so once she's not able to explain her source of wealth, then we are in the realm of corruption and corruption-related offenses. Because bribery, putting it in another simple way, they look like bribes because she can't explain. And what is it that she can't explain? It will be difficult to say, oh, maybe Ya brought me 1,000, Kweku brought 200, Abukari brought 50 Ghana. Yeah, that's a real problem. Sometimes we just have to be plain. That is what it is. If you see, we've been saying it from day one. If Madame Dapaah had any business that could earn her that money, by now she would have quickly put that information out there, because it doesn't serve her purpose or it doesn't serve her interest for her to sit like a lame duck and then she'll be run aground and only later seek to explain. No, it just didn't add up. Once she wasn't providing answers at all, or we're going in the realm of bribery and corruption. And that's what so far it's looking like. You see, even in the statement at one point, she says the money belonged to her deceased brother, Kweku's son, and then later she had to recoil from it. Later she had to recoil. You see, you remember Kweku's son's widow, through lawyer William Kusi, prepared to sue her for that money. So she had to beat a retreat to now say that the money is hers. You see, so this case from day one is one that has been riddled with false statements here and there, and those false statements and changing positions very frequently make the case really look like one that we are headed for bribery and corruption. The only difficulty is that, she has a constitutional right to keep quiet under Article 19. Yes, that's our constitution. You have a right to keep quiet, a right to silence. You say, yeah, so it's the OSP that has to prove the bribery and corruption. So now, if the persons who pay the bribes are not willing to come out also, then you see that it's going to be a difficult investigation. That's where the problem is. So maybe moving forward, maybe it's possible. Well, we'll not run ahead, but we have to begin to look how perhaps we would make it easier for the OSP in future. Yes, there is the right to do forfeiture, under even the Constitution, Article 284, 286, Clause 4.
Right.
Right, even that one, unexplained wealth. And then you have part of it in the OSP regulations. Yes, the regulation 2374, where if you have currency and you cannot explain straight away, the OSP can go to court to have the currency forfeited,
right,
to the state, so confiscated. So maybe minimum, at least we should have all those monies confiscated. If we are lucky, maybe we will see the perpetrators of the bribery.
But there's another interesting aspect of this detail from the OSP, Lawyer Matipe. But if you recall, one of the conversations on Key Point on TV3, which you were part of that panel, Alfred Thompson, who is a member of the NPP, referenced this cosmetic business that Cecilia Dapaah is said to have owned, which the OSP has found that it is registered in someone else's name, but may be belonging to her. Just a quick recall. This was about almost 7 weeks ago. Take a look.
This was a cousin from another party stating categorically that she had a cosmetic business and the business was thriving. So she didn't even know why she should come and accept a ministerial position, because it's a good business that is going on with the cosmetics, the body cream and things. Could it be that it's the body cream business that is giving her money? I don't want to speculate. You see, but there are so many.
Body cream.
Yeah, body cream. They said she has a cosmetic business that she runs. And I don't know whether it's still
the body
ongoing.
cream is what you...
They said she's making a lot of... The lady said she was making a lot of money from that place.
Okay. So, this was sometime in July, and now the OSP is capturing this cosmetic business in his document, in fact, stating that it is registered in someone else's name, but then again, maybe belonging to Cecilia Dapaah as well. But how does all of this suffice?
And all those explanations have fallen flat, right? Yes, because it's a Demarcare, cosmetics. Yes, but if you look at Demarcare Cosmetics, they say it's not registered in her name. So there's one which is registered in the Mariam Ewua, right? Then there's another business registered in the name of Adiok. Can I get the statement? So there's Mariam Ewua, then another business, Adiok, right? Madam Adiok. So all of this don't have her as owner of those businesses. Then go again, the next one, 9. So IX, that's Roman numeral IX. Then again, contrary to the first respondent's claim that Demarcare Cosmetics ceased operations in 2003, the business registration documents, Exhibit OSP 7, show that the business was registered in 2018. In 2018. So you see the point? She says the business ceased operation in 2003. But it turns out that the business actually was registered in 2018. So you see how, and then it says, further, the first respondent, that's Madam Dapaah, was unable to provide particulars of the said business sale and proof of statutory payments in respect of the said business. So you said, yes, 2 gargantuan false statements, right? That really are a strong part of the showdown, right? So one, he says, oh, she sold in 2003 and kept the money. Meanwhile, in 2003, we didn't have the new Ghana cedis. Then point number 2, she says, oh, the business stopped operating in 2003. It turned out the business was opened rather in 2018. That's 15 years on. So if you had had a child by then this child would be a 15-year-old adolescent. So you see that it's crazy. It's crazy. No. Listen, sometimes, look, we are all human beings. You make mistakes. It's possible you just admit and then face the consequences rather than doing this comedy of errors and all that. Because the more this thing drags, then the more it even hurts the government. And look, Mr. Okansi, and the more we'll be paying for the OSP to search the rest of the ministers. That is what we should be looking at. Can President Kufuor also step out to say he agrees? OSP, search the rest of my ministers, and even including President Kufuor himself. Yes, that will be right. That will be right. Then you see all the money, the source of this our economic hardship. You see the money is with our ministers, the presidency. Yes, let's do a search them. That is what will really bring us relief. Because Madam Dapaah is just sanitation minister. See how much she has. Then the rest of the ministers, so now they are 80-something, right? But of course, the search should extend to the 125 or was it 126 we had a few years ago. That will help so that we can disgorge all that money and then be able to use it to be able to help take care of our poorer brothers and sisters. Don't forget, Mr. Okansi, every day we'll have to repeat that at least 3 million Ghanaians live on less than $1.90. And if you generously convert, less than 24 Ghana cedis. So this thing is a very serious matter. It's a ticking time bomb that we should spare no effort at all at trying to solve that poverty, that hunger. If ministers are sitting on money, why shouldn't we search them and take the money to help solve this problem?
Right. Well, while we round up on this, there's another aspect of this document from the OSP, which points to something interesting, that the deceased brother of Cecilia Dapaah's account is still active, and that account is transferring money to Cecilia Dapaah. Now, Lawyer, stay with me a bit. Dennis, let's get into that briefly. What does the OSP's document say about the account owned by Cecilia Dapaah's deceased brother and the activity in there?
So what you just said is one of the several examples that the OSP cites as being suspicious transactions running through the bank accounts and investment accounts of the respondents, talking about the former minister. And he cites the instance that these transactions cannot be attributed to her lawful income or declared or disclosed sources of income at all material times in her position as a public officer. The OSP also makes the case that the former minister was engaged in an undisclosed and under-declared real estate business in which she obscured and concealed the transactions by employing the use of aliases to avoid detection of actual ownership of the business properties, which while cleverly receiving proceeds of the transactions in her bank accounts and investments. He cites a specific instance where a property was sold. This is a house, a snit at Botema Estate Flats, at Botema Estates, and that at all times that the transaction was going on, she was using the name Nanaya Ode. It was only at the point where the buyer was going to make the payment to the bank that the agent then told the buyer that the actual name in the account is not Nanaya Ode, but Cecilia Dapaah. It's just one of the instances. Then he also cites an instance where the supposed deceased brother, who we understand per this statement, died somewhere in January 2022, but thereafter, there were still transactions made from his bank account. There are instances where monies were transferred from his bank account somewhere in September 2022, and even in May 2023, that's when the brother was supposed to be late. The OSP makes the case that he has not seen any letters of administration or probate. That is to say that he has not seen any court give anybody the permission to deal with the estate of the deceased brother. For that reason, he thinks that the money in those accounts, and he cites an example of days and specific amounts of money that have been deposited in the former minister's account, and he says that per the minister's rule and knowing how much the minister is supposed to earn, it is highly unlikely that this money would be his, and that he suspects this money is tainted. He's convinced that putting all the evidence together, the court this time around would confirm the orders for him to freeze the account and then also to seize the property.
Good stuff, Dennis. Thank you so much. Lawyer, I want to wrap up with you on this. So that particular point about the activity in the Cecilia Dapaah's deceased brother's bank account, that there's been movement and money is being paid from that account to Cecilia Dapaah. What does this point to? And that's going to be my final one on this document that we're perusing tonight.
So that's number one, that account really never belonged to the deceased brother. Otherwise, if it did, I'm sure Madam Dapaah knows that she should not continue to operate that account, right? Yeah, she would know that once the deceased brother, and even if the deceased, once the brother is deceased, she doesn't have authorization. So the OSP says that she hasn't obtained letters for administration or probate. You see, when a person dies, if we are talking book law, proper book law, sometimes there's book law and then the practical side of it. But this one is both book law and practical. The point is that when somebody dies and he has an estate, things that is left behind, you can't touch. Even if, look, that's what I said, even if going by book law, even if it's one shed, properly speaking by law, you can't touch the shed, you can't use it, you can't distribute it, you can't do anything with it until you have authorization from the court. The authorization is either letters for administration, that is to say, if the person died without a will, or if the person made a will, that I have only one shed, I give it to Ms. Okansi. Yes, you have to go to court for permission before you can use it. So if the person left behind a will, then we call it probate. That's the authorization you go and get from the court. The paper is called probate because there's a will. But if the person died without a will, that authorization paper is called letters for administration. Yes, so without these documents, either probate or letters for administration, you can't touch even a pin. You see, I said practical side because sometimes if it's literally a pin or even just one shed, and not just one shed, the estate is very small. I've seen situations where practically people have come and they'll say, oh, the cost of going to court is too much compared to what the estate is. We will just go ahead. That's the one. I'm not encouraging it, but I'm just saying that because I mentioned the word practical law, then I say I've seen a situation where people have refused to go to court. But it's against the law. If something happens and you are caught, there's trouble because you have to pay a tax on the property.
I see. Appreciate you. Lawyer Martin Pebo, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Look, this is just the beginning of a very, very interesting, Dennis, you want to say what, showdown between the OSP and the Cecilia Dapaah.
It's a comeback.
It's a comeback showdown. We'll see how the coming days will look like. But thank you, Dennis, for bearing with doing some analysis with us here on Ghana Tonight on this document. Stay with us because there's a lot more coming up on this matter.